Today we're going to do the beginnings of a melon basket, and you've got your round hoops that you're going to be starting with. They need to be marked first in two different places. So what you do is you kind of feel around, and often you can see or feel. Many times it's on the inside, but you really want to be able to find on the outside if you can. And I can see the line right here on this one where it joins. I can feel it. And what you want to do is mark 2 inches away from that splice. So mark 2 inches. Then you take your tape measure and you put your tape measure at that mark. You measure the whole circumference of the handle. I got 26 and a quarter. So I knew that 13 and an eighth would be my halfway point. So I mark from the mark to 13 and an eighth on the other side and marked it. And I did that with both of mine. I recommend you measure them both because there might be a slight difference in the two. Mine happen to be the same, but that's not always the case. And then if you know one of them is slightly larger than the other, you're going to want that one to be your outer one. It really doesn't matter if they are the same. So I've got my 2 marks right here and right here, and they look to be about halfway. And then what you do is you take your 2 rings, your 2 hoops, and you put them together. So if the lines, if you could see through this, your lines would make like an X on your thing. So you can imagine this line is underneath here, and this one is going across right underneath that one. So it'll kind of have this kind of a look. Now it's gonna be a little hard for me to show you this, so I'm just gonna explain to you what I'm gonna do, and then I'll bring it up so you can see it. So you're gonna see a little bit of just blank table for a little while, and I apologize for that. What I'm gonna do is put this between my legs. It's just easier between my knees. It's just easier to do it that way. And I'm gonna take a piece. I have some heavy quilting thread. You can also use dental floss if you don't have that. And what I'm gonna do is just crisscross across here a couple times to keep it safe, because as you can see, it wiggles pretty good. It's still gonna move a little bit even with the thread on it, but it's gonna be a little bit better. So I'm gonna go away for just a second. I'm still here. I'll keep on talking, but I've put it between my legs, and I'm just gonna kind of go from corner to corner and twist it back and forth just a couple times to keep it in place and get it where it needs to be. I'm going to tie it on the inside, so when you're done, you really won't see the knots on the outside. And when you're finished with this, you will be cutting these off anyway to get them completely hidden. Just dropped my whole thing. I am so sorry. Try this again. So I'm going to crisscross my thread just a couple times to try to keep that as still as possible. So when I work it, it doesn't move quite as much. So you can see that I've tied it just a couple times through. Underneath is the tail where I've tied it. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And this is a good chance to just make sure your lines match up. I just got it between my knees just to hold it, anchor it, since it's not a flat bottom of any kind. And just keep twisting. Whatever way you can find to get your thread or your dental floss to stay put once you've done a couple of the twists. And then tie it off underneath. As tight as you can get it. And since I'm doing it at my knees, I don't think mine's going to be real tight because I can't turn it the other way. That's how I lost it the last time. I can't turn it the other way to tie it. So, So there's the other one then. Okay, so I have them both anchored. They're still wiggly a little bit, but they're going to stay a little bit better. You have a little more control over it. They're not going to actually slip out now because they're anchored a little bit. If you've ever been in Girl Scouts, you have probably made God's eyes and really enjoyed that. But basically, here's what you do. I've got two pieces, and this is going to eventually be a melon basket that is a pumpkin basket. So I'm using green for the God's eye, and I would use natural for the women. So what you're going to do is mark your handle above where you can see it. I'm going to kind of go up a little because I don't want it to be covered when I start the God's eye. And you're going to go in a counterclockwise way. I'm going to mark that one 1. So the one on top is 1. The one to the left is 2. The one below is 3. And the one to the right is 4. And you're going to be working with those 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, working counterclockwise. Try to find the right one if you can. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it so it kind of comes from the bottom up to the left corner. And the basic rule of thumb for the God's eye is you go up to the next handle piece and then go behind it and come down through. So it's around here. I'm going to pull it all the way through. So it goes behind 1. Pull it good and tight there. I'm going to make it cross over down to 2. The left one. I'm going to make it come up behind 2. Pull it the whole way through. I often do this with my niece too, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And then with this one only, you're going to go right over that first piece so you can't see where you started stopped. So you're going to cross over to 3, go behind 3. So that's the bottom one. You're going to cross over to 4. Now when you cross over to 4, the run you had before going that same direction, you're going to just lightly, almost like just brushing it with a kiss, just lightly touch that edge. So go to 4. Go behind. And what's going to happen is that's going to slowly start to grow. So I'm behind 4. I'm going to go back up to 1. So here's the piece I'm going to be working on. I'm going to come across, but I'm going to just lightly touch that edge. I'm not going to overlap it completely. I'm not going to have a space. And I come up to 1, pull it behind. Come across, go down to 2, and I turn mine around a little bit so I can see it. So here's the piece I went behind, so I'm going to bring it just on the edge. And if you can see, it is starting to grow a little bit here. It's getting a little wider. You won't see it right away, but after a while you go, oh, I see it. And so it's like the God's eye, you know, it's all seeing. So I'm going to cross from, here's 2 again. I'm going to cross from 2. I'm going to just barely touch that one that's going back down to 3. Come behind 3. I'm going to go up to 4, barely touch the one that went over to 4 the last time. Bring it behind. And you see why you need a really long piece. And I'm going to cross up to 1. And you're to do this 6 times around for the size of the melon basket that I'm actually going to be making. So you do it 6 times around. And you're thinking, oh man, how do I keep track of that? Because I've got all this going on here. What you do is you look on the inside. And I can see I have 1, 2, 1, 2. So I've done 2 revolutions. I'm starting my 3rd. I can count by the number of wraps on the back of it. Okay, so I'm going to do it quickly now. I'll say it out loud as I'm doing it. So behind 1, barely touch the one going down to 2. Bring it behind 2. I'm going to cross over to 3. Just touch that edge. I'm sorry, behind 3. Bring it all the way through. I'm going to bring it up to 4, barely touch the edge, and you can see it's growing. Go behind 4, so that would be my 3rd one. And if I wasn't sure, I could look on the inside and see my 3 wraps on each one. And if you lose track of what number you're on, you can kind of look to see where you are, and you won't really be able to see where you started, but you'll know when you end up with having the same on each one of them. So up to 1, barely touch. Come behind. Down to 2. And I do turn it just so I can always have my right hand working the way I'm supposed to. Behind 2, so now of course it's upside down to you. Come across to 3, barely touch that edge. Go up to 4, come behind it, and that's my 4 revolutions. So I'm going to start my 5th. 1. And it's good to have a long piece, not only to do all the revolutions of it, but also to have it to continue to do some continual weaving. All right, and then you're going to go to 2. Cross down to 3, barely touching that piece. Go behind 3. Go up to 4, just touch that edge. There's 5 revolutions, and I'm going to do my last revolution. It's possible with this one I might do one more, simply because this is 3/16 and not 1/4 inch, and I had that a little too far over, so I can push it before I go down again. Barely touch that end. Come around. Just touch the edge. Come around. I'm on 3 now. Come up to 4. Touch the edge. You don't want it to be right on top. You want it just to barely touch. It's like a little kiss on 4. Now that's where I'm done with my 6 rotations. I can come back here and I can look that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 revolutions and I'm ending on 4. That was what the normal one starts for if you have the 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead and do one more. That one didn't come over far enough, so I'm going to work on it a little bit just to get them over a little bit, because you want the God's eye to increasingly grow bigger. You can see it getting bigger and bigger, ever seeing. Okay, so I'm going to go with one more revolution just because I want this to be a little bit bigger than it is, because I use the smaller thing. And every time you do it, when you wrap it in the back, it's slightly above the one that was there before. That's another way to kind of tell. And then you just barely touch that edge. 2. 3. And 4. 4 is just not cooperating with me. Okay. And then when I get to that one, I'm going to go back to the other side then and do the other side and get that done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the tail down right on number 4, and it's going to face down on number 4. So now I know this is going to be my handle right here where number 1 is. That's my handle. I did forget to mention that when you are looking at your handle, you want to kind of find the one that is the nicer looking one, doesn't have any marks on it that you don't like, or any scruffy parts or anything like that, just to make sure you have the right one. So there's my God's eye. You can see how it's ever growing, always looking. And then you would repeat the same thing on the other one, starting going down. Oh, and again, you would number them as you look at them. You want to make sure you have the right way. In fact, you can do both at the same time. I just wanted to show you. So 1, counterclockwise, 2, below, 3, and to the right, 4. And then you repeat the same thing on the other side.